Hello, guys. Welcome to another session of Bootcamp 2020. Today, we're going to see that how can we connect Amplify with React Native. So, before starting, Sarzia, would you like to add anything?
Just I'd like to just say that uh, you have a server-side infrastructure, which is AWS, which we have learned using CDK, and on the client side, basically you use CDN to distribute the clients, which is basically AWS CloudFront. But how do you connect from the client, which is mobile applications, Android and iPhone applications, to the server? That's the big question. And AWS has built a library for that to make it easy. Of course, you can do it yourself also, but it will take a lot of code. So therefore, they have developed a library to connect to the server components, and we are going to learn to how to use them. Varis, today we are going to finish. Is it going to take long, or how long is it going to take?
I think around 30-35 minutes.
Okay, and then we will start trying to develop a to-do app or whatever you think fit, and then we'll finish off this boot camp. Therefore, only this thing is left.
Okay.
Uh, let's see how it goes. Let's start.
Okay. Okay. So, let me share my screen first. Okay. Today we're going to see that how can we use some of the backend AWS resources in our client side or in React Native. And if you can recall from the previous classes that the best way of going about it is by using Amplify's front-end libraries. And that is what we're going to do today. And fortunately, it is very, very similar to what we did in Gatsby. So today's class would be more like a revision. Now, before actually moving towards the code, I would like to discuss Amplify in a bit more detail. And for that, I've actually made some slides. So you can see this diagram over here. Just zoom it in. So this is what we have been doing up till now. We would create our backend using CDK. So like, for example, we would create our APIs and user pools and everything else using CDK. And then we would use that on our client side using Amplify front-end libraries. We have also seen how to use APIs with Apollo client, but ideally Amplify is the best library if you want to use AWS services on your client side. So this is what we have been doing up till now. But what if I told you that this is only just one aspect of Amplify? The front-end libraries is just one aspect of Amplify. You can actually also create back-end services using Amplify instead of CDK. So in that case, your diagram would look something like this. So in this case, you can see you are creating back-end services using Amplify as well. And on the front end, we were already using Amplify libraries. So in this case, you can say that Amplify has two different aspects. One is the front end libraries, and one is the back end. And if you combine them both, then you can actually say that it is a full stack development tool. You can say that. But the question is that why have we never used Amplify for backend? Like we have always used the Amplify libraries for front end because they're easy to use. They're pretty good. And we have always used CDK for backend. We have always prioritized CDK over Amplify for backend. Why have we never used Amplify for backend? And why have we always thought that CDK is better? Well, to understand that, you need to understand the differences between both of them. Right now, I think there are 3 or 4 differences that are coming in my mind. So the first difference is that Amplify supports only a handful of services, a handful of AWS services. So if I can actually go to the documentation of Amplify, so you can see it only offers a handful of services. So it offers authentication. That means you can create user pools using Amplify. You can create GraphQL APIs, REST APIs, and a few more services, but it does not offer all the services. Whereas on the other hand, CDK, we all know that CDK, in CDK, you can literally provision and create almost all the services that AWS provides us. So this is the first difference, and then this obviously means that CDK is far more superior. The second difference is that in Amplify, it is extremely easy to create AWS resources. Like example, if you have to create an API, all you have to do is write a command in CLI, and it will create an API for you. Whereas on the other hand, in CDK, you actually have to write some lines of code to create a resource. Like even for AppSync, you have to write at least 10, 15 lines of code. But in Amplify, all you have to do is write one command in CLI. It will ask you some questions, and then it will create the API for you. Now, this can be a good thing and as well as a bad thing. The good thing is that you don't need to be a backend developer to create APIs or any AWS services with Amplify. So, for example, if you're just a front-end developer and then you have no idea about backend, even then you can create AWS resources using Amplify. It is that easy. But the downside is that with easiness, you lose some configurability. Like in CDK, like we have all made AppSync APIs, and it has like thousands of different parameters that you can configure in CDK. But you don't have that kind of configurability when you create AppSync API from Amplify. Like for example, you can create pipeline resolvers in CDK. You can write BTL in response and mapping in response and request mapping templates, but you cannot do that in Amplify. You do have some extent, you do have configurability to some extent, but not too much. You can't do complex things in Amplify. But obviously, it's easy for someone who doesn't know how to create AWS, who doesn't know how to use CDK, can easily create AppSync APIs or REST APIs or user pools very easily using Amplify. So this is the second difference. The third difference is that whenever you create a resource in Amplify, you are not writing a code for it. It's not infrastructure as code. All you do is run some commands on CLI and it will create a resource for you. Obviously, you can go and check it on the console. It is there on the console. But from the management point of view and from tracking, from the point of view of tracking your resources, it is not ideal, because whenever you have to change something, you will have to go to the console and change it over there. Whereas in CDK, you have a very good project structure through which you can manage your code and resources and keep track of them. And especially in those cases where many different teams are working on the same project, that is where CDK shines the most. You can't have many teams working in Amplify because you don't have infrastructure as code. And I think that's pretty much it. I think I've covered everything. So when you actually compare them both, then you realize that CDK is much better than Amplify. Now, would I ever use Amplify for backend? Maybe. Maybe if I did not know how to use CDK, or if I was only a front-end developer and I had to make small applications, then yes, Amplify is a good tool. But I'm at least happy that it is out there. I mean, you have an option to use Amplify to create AWS backend resources. But for big complex projects where a lot of teams are working together and your code needs and your project needs to be maintained and your code needs to be maintained, you cannot do that in Amplify. For that, you need CDK. And so this is what we have always done, and this is what we're going to do today as well. We have never used Amplify backend, although it's very, very easy. I don't even need to teach you how to do it. But we have always used CDK because it's far more superior. And front-end libraries, but we are like we are okay with the front-end library because it can integrate AWS resources regardless of how they were made. It can integrate AWS resources that were made from CDK as well as from Amplify backend. So yeah, so I would always use CDK, especially in our case where we have experience in both the front-end and backend development. So in that case, the backend services of Amplify are a bit questionable. So let's get started with it. So we have a small tutorial over here that how to get started in React Native. It is very, very similar to what we did in Gatsby, but let's follow this tutorial. So let me just zoom it in. Just making sure I'm still connected. Okay. So first of all, you need an AWS account. We have already done that. Then yes, you need Amplify CLI. You need to install that. You can do that by running this command. and then you will have to configure your Amplify. Now, I'm not exactly sure that if you have already configured your AWS account, then do you actually need to do it again with Amplify or not? But I think you don't have to. So I'm not sure about that, but I think, yeah, if you have configured your AWS account, you don't have to configure Amplify separately. But if you're running into configuration problems, then you can run this command as well, and then you have to enter a few details over here, like the region and your username, and maybe your secret key, and yeah. So this is how you configure AWS and Amplify, and this is where the real thing starts from. So it's saying, first of all, we need to create a front end client side project. So if you're using React Native CLI, you can run this command. Otherwise, if you're running Expo, you will run this command. This is what we're using. I'm going to run this command, but obviously you need to have the CLI installed. You can install it by running this command. So I'm going to create a project first. Sorry, I chose the wrong template. So I had to choose. So you can actually choose a template. So Zeeshan has already gone through it, but I'm going to choose a blank TypeScript template.
Some students are requesting that you go a little bit slower.
Oh, okay. Sorry about that. So right now I'm creating a client-side application on React Native. Okay, so the next thing after this is done, they're asking us to run amplify init command. Now, if you are creating your
zoom in a little bit.
Okay, sorry. Okay. So now the next thing they are asking us to do is to run amplify init command. Now, if you are creating your backend resources using Amplify, like in this case, then this command is definitely required. You cannot create Amplify backend resources with Amplify if you do not run this command, because the Amplify would not be initialized in your project. But in our case, where we are not using Amplify to create backend resources, we're only using CDK to create our backend resources. This command is not required. However, if you run it, then it does make a few things easier for you, and I'll show you how. So I'm going to run it anyways in my example, but it is not required in our case because we are creating our backend resources using CDK. So when you will run this command, it will ask you a few questions. Let's see if it's done or not. Okay, I'm just going to wait for the project to get initialized. Okay, it's done. Now let's go to now I'm going to run amplify init in it. It's asking for the name of the project. It's just going to ask us a few questions. Most of them are required because it's actually assuming that you're going to create some backend resources using Amplify, but we're not going to do that. So I don't really care about most of the questions over here. JavaScript, React Native. Now the downside of this of running this command is that it actually creates a folder in your project, and it also creates some resources in AWS cloud, which you would have only used if you had created AWS resources using Amplify backend services. But in our case, because we're using CDK, these resources that it is creating right now would just be sitting idle. So this is the downside. So you can see it's creating a bucket. It's creating some roles that we are never going to use. But I've just run this command so that a few things get easier for us. Otherwise, you have to do those things manually. So it is also written over here that it creates a top level directory called Amplify that stores your backend definition, and it creates this file for you. This is very important. So if you do not run Amplify in it, you will have to create this file manually, which is not a huge deal. And it also modifies your gitignore file, and it also creates a project in the Amplify console. So this command is mostly related to the backend aspect of the Amplify. And the next thing we need to do is we need to install the front end libraries that we are going to use to call out our APIs and user pool or whatever. So these are the front end libraries that I'm installing right now.
Varis, we have to slow down a little bit.
Okay. Okay, now meanwhile, our front end libraries are being installed. I'm going to show you what did the Amplify init added in our project. So it added this folder, the Amplify folder, which we are not going to use in our case because we're not creating anything, any AWS resources using Amplify. We're doing it using CDK. So, but this is going to sit there, and it also created what else did it create? It also created an AWS exports.js file, and we know from the previous lectures that this is the file where all the parameters of your API and user pools go. And this is a very important file. And right now it is more or less empty because we have not created any APIs yet. And that's it. So this is one extra thing that Amplify creates for you in your project, but it also has created some resources in the cloud that we are not going to use unless and until we are using the backend services of Amplify as well. So while our front-end libraries are being installed, I'm going to move ahead. Okay. I'm going to just import it. So just copy it over here from here. And what does it say? So it's saying that after installing these files, you can just import these libraries that were installed over here in your main file. So I'm going to do that. So, okay. So first of all, we're importing the main Amplify library. And then we are calling this file over here. Where is it? AWS exports.js file. That has all the that will have all the configuration for our API and user pools in it. We have imported it over here, and then we have to run this command amplify.configure, and we pass our configuration file over here. This is exactly the same what we did in Gatsby. Now you can see it's giving us an error because of TypeScript. It is saying that this file doesn't have a type with it. Now to ignore this error, I think you can come over here and write no implicit any and make it false, and the error should go away. Okay, it went away. So this is all that we have done. We have just configured our configuration file in our main app.tsx file.
Varis, we need to zoom in a little bit.
Oh, okay. So I've just imported my configuration file. I've imported my library, and I've just you just have to run this command to configure your to initialize your Amplify with this configuration file. This is exactly the same what we did in Gatsby. But the thing is that our configuration file right now is empty because we have not created anything yet. So let's move to the backend first. Let's first create an API or a user pool. For that, I've already made a CDK project. It should be an empty project just to save some time. And I've installed the dependencies. Now what we need to do is let's first have a look at how can we use APIs. Let's first create how can we use APIs on the client side in React Native. So first let's create a GraphQL API over here. Now I can write the code from the beginning, but just to save some time, I'm going to copy it from our repository from step 6, I believe. So here we go. We have everything written over here. I'm just going to copy it. So I've created an AppSync API. We don't need this. And then we need to create a Lambda function, which will work as a resolver for us. Just Lambda. And this line over here, in this line over here, we're saying that we want to add this Lambda function as a data source for this API. So I'm just literally copy pasting the code from step 6, just to save some time. Now we still need to make our schema. So let's make a new folder over here. And schema.graphql. Let's see what do we have in our schema. Okay, we can just make a very simple query and mutation. So hello world query, and we can just return a string and make a hello world mutation. Right, name over here, and it's going to return a string as well. So I've just made a very simple query and a very simple mutation. And what else do we need to do? We need to add the code of our Lambda function. So for that, I'm going to make a new folder, functions, and the name of the file is main. I'm just going to copy paste the code from the repository. We don't need this. We don't even need this. You can just go with the type any. And so this is going to be our query, hello world query. And we were only returning a string, so I can just run hello world. And then we have hello world mutation. And here we were also returning a string, but it also has an input name, so we can utilize that. So hello, and then it goes in event arguments dot name, and that's it. This is our resolver, and now we have created our API. We have made the schema. We have created our Lambda function, written the code for it, and we just have to create resolvers now. So this is how you create resolvers. We just need 2 of them. The second one is hello world mutation. Now we can deploy it and check it if it's working or not. Just double checking if I've done everything right. Okay, seems right. So what I'm actually doing right now is that I'm creating this backend thing over here. I've initialized my front end project, but I don't have anything to use in it because I don't have any backend right now. So I'm creating a backend first. I've just created an AppSync API. First, you will see that how can we use that on our client side, and then I will, if we have time, I will also make a user pool, and then I'll show you how you can use authentication on your client side. So meanwhile, it's deploying. I can just open my console. Okay, we got an error. Oh, I think there's a spelling mistake. Forgot a D. Oh, it's going to roll back again. It should work fine now, hopefully. Okay, so this is the one. Okay, it's done. Now let's first quickly test it. So I'm first going to test the query. It should return hello world. Okay, this is working. Now let's test our mutation. So I'm just going to write. It should return hello virus. Okay, this is working as well. Now we're ready to use this on our client side. Now because we have already run Amplify in it, I told you that it makes a few things easier for us. Now we can directly run this command, and all the configuration that we need for this API uh, would already come in this file, in this AWS exports.js file. Let me show you. So I'm gonna run this command. So it will add all the required configuration in this file, and then it would also create a new folder with the name GraphQL that will have our mutations and queries. So you can see it added all the required configuration for this API. And then TypeScript, it's asking a few questions. And you can see it added a new folder somewhere over here. Yeah, here. So you can see.
Virus, we have to zoom a little bit.
Oh, okay. So it made a new folder that has our mutations and queries in it. So this is how Amplify init can make things easier for you. If you had not run this command, then you cannot run this thing directly. What you have to do is you first have to go to your schema over here. You would have to download your schema. It can be a GraphQL or a JSON file, doesn't matter. And then you have to place this file in your root directory of your front end, and then you would come over here and then you would run this command. But even then, the AWS exports.js file would not be created for you. You would have to still download it manually from here. If you click here download config, this button actually downloads the AWS exports file for you. So all these things were done automatically for us because we ran this command. Now, okay, now we're ready to start coding. So we have initialized our configuration over here. Now let's go back to the tutorial. Okay, so this is how you add API from Amplify. So I just created it using CDK over here, but if you want to create it using Amplify, all you have to do is run this command, Amplify add API. It will ask you a few questions and it will create the API for you. That's easy. That's how easy it is, but we're not going to do that because we have already created the API using CDK. So I'm going to move down. If you're interested in creating API from Amplify, you can follow this tutorial. But we have already done this. Now this is where they're showing that how you can use it on your main app.tsx page. Connect to front end. Yeah. So first you have to import these two things from the Amplify library. And then this is how you run your query. So this is how you run your query. Let me just finish up with the importing first. You also have to import the queries and mutations that were created for you. Our mutation was hello world mutation. Hello world query. So these imports are coming from this folder over here, a GraphQL folder. It has one queries file and one mutation file. And now in this function that we just created, you can call any query or mutation by in this function. So you write api.graphql, and in that you write GraphQL operation, and in here you have to write the name of your query that you just imported up here. So mine is hello world query, and then I don't need this. I also don't need this. That's it. And I can actually console log my result. Data, maybe just data. That's it. That's how easy it is. Now all I have to do is run this function to run this query. This is exactly the same that we did in Gatsby. So yeah, you can literally copy paste the code from a Gatsby project to a React Native project, and it should work fine. Now to actually run it, we will need a use effect hook. So and we can call our function over here. And now we can run our project. So to run it, you write expo start. It's saying that you have some problems in the I don't know. I have some dependencies problem. I'm just gonna run npm install again. So I'm not sure why that happened, but let's see if it works.
Basically, why it is saying that the default installation is 6.0.0, but you need 5.9.7 something. So you might have to uninstall the version which is already installed.
Oh, okay. So this wouldn't work. npm install.
No, I
Oh,
don't think so, because it will install the version 6 already, which is already installed.
oh, okay.
So if you go to the package.json file,
Yep.
you see the native community 6.0. So
Yeah, yeah.
just copy it, and then we'll run the uninstall command for this package.
Okay.
Then we'll update this npm
Okay.
uninstall for this.
Okay. Should I just let it finish?
Yeah, otherwise we were not
Okay.
sure what installation break will do.
Yeah. Should I just like try running it once?
Please
Okay, and
zoom a little bit
Oh,
in the console also.
okay. Okay. So I don't know. It started running.
it started running. Yes, then
Yeah.
let it be.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not sure what happened there, but yeah, the error was
Error
regarding
was
the version.
the compatibility version. So it's saying that you need to have 5.9.7, but actually you have 6.01. That's the error. So
Yeah.
might be npm install would work somehow.
Yeah. Yeah, but it's working now, so yeah, that's
Yeah,
good for
leave it.
us. So yeah.
Yes.
Now yeah, so now you can actually run it uh, in your phone or in your browser. I'm just gonna choose browser. Now I'm not going through all this because Zeeshan has already covered this. Mm, it is taking longer than usual. No, it shouldn't take this long. Let me just refresh the page and I'll go about it.
Yeah. Yes, it should work.
I'm not sure what is happening. Let me just run it again. Maybe
Yes.
that version is causing some problem. Oh, try again. Okay, it's working now. So let's go to the console and we should have, so this is the default text. Uh, so this is the default text that is being shown on the page. But the result of our query should have been console. It's console log, so it should be in the console. So I think this is the ones, yeah. So we're getting the data from our query. And similarly, you can also run the mutation. So I'm just gonna replace it with the mutation. Hello, hello, mutation. And it is also, and it also takes an input. So the name of the input is name. I'm just gonna hard code it for now. Let's see what happens now. So you can see now it said hello virus. So our query and our mutation, both of them are working on the client side. Now this is how you run. Now you can also, similarly you can also run subscriptions. I'm not going to go through that because it is exactly similar to what we did in Gatsby. Now the next thing that I can show you is the how to use authentication, the user pools on client side. Now for that, I will again have to go to my backend and create a user pool over here. So again, I can just copy paste the code from our repository. And let's go to the Cognito step 2. So here we have a user pool. So you need a user pool as well as user pool client, because whenever you have to connect your user pool with your client side, you need this user pool client. So yeah, just going to copy that user pool and paste it over here, and that's it. And we can deploy it again. Now, in case of AppSync, it was very easy to because we just ran one command and where's that file? Sorry. Yeah, we just ran one command and everything was here automatically. We didn't have to write it manually. But there's no such command for user pool, so you have to do it manually. You will have to enter the configuration manually over here. But it's not a big deal. You can just copy paste it from our repository again. You need user pool ID, user pool client ID, and the region. I'm just copy pasting it because so that we don't make any spelling mistakes. There we go. So you can see this is what we need to copy. I can just paste it over here. In the region, I'm going to add US East 1 because that is where I'm working on. And the rest is going to come from here. So client ID, and user pool ID. And that's it. Now, up till now, we have only configured our user pool. We have not added any sign up or sign in elements on our page. Let me show you how to do that. So if I can go back to the tutorial, they must have given us some like a pre-made authenticator like we had in Gatsby. Yeah, add authentication. So if you don't want to create a user pool from CDK, you can just write this command in the CLI and it will create the user pool for you. So here we go. They have given us authenticator. I'm not sure if this is the one we need to use. Let me just go to UI components, and in the authentication, authenticator. So there are many ways of importing this authenticator. You can either wrap your main application in this authenticator, but there's another way as well, like we had in Gatsby. So yeah, you have this authenticator object element. Yeah, so I can just import it from here. Oh, this is backend. And we can put it over here. This should work fine. Yeah, okay, now we have got okay, we're getting some errors. The value. Okay, I think these errors are related to the form fields inside the authenticator that were provided to us by Amplify. Yeah, because I haven't added anything else. Yeah, so I'm not sure why is it giving an error. Maybe because I'm using an older version of Amplify. I'm not sure, but it's a warning. It's not an error, so we can just ignore it for now. I'm gonna close it and let's sign up. Sign up. It's asking for a code. Go to my email. Okay. Okay. I think we're getting some. Okay. Okay, we're in. So you can see how easy it is to use authentication with Amplify. Now, the major difference between Gatsby and React Native is that in Gatsby, if you remember properly, you had to separately add a sign button over here, something like sign out. But in this case, you don't have to do that. You only have to add authenticator, and it takes care of everything for you. Now, obviously, there are ways to customize this authenticator. Um, yeah, so it, um, yeah, customize your own components. So I think you can add a you can actually change the sign-in page of the authenticator. You can change the confirmation, the code confirmation page, the sign-out page, the sign-out button. You can do all that. If you want to do all that, you can actually come to this page and go through this documentation. But there's one more important thing that you need to know, that how can you get the user's information. Now let me see if they have given us any function for that. If this looks on. Hmm. So you can see this authenticator also takes some also has some properties. It also takes some parameters. So I think this one actually gives you the state of the user, whether he's signed in, signed out. Let's see.
Varis, could you focus a little bit on the which you just showed?
Okay. So you can see in the authenticator, you can also add some properties or parameters. So I think this one actually gives you the state of the user, that whether they're signed in, signed out, and this gives you the auth data, like the username, email address, and everything about the user if they're signed in. I'm not sure. I've never run it before, but I'm just guessing. Let's see what it does. And you can also set a theme. Then you have there are a lot of customization options. So I'm just gonna run this for now. Let's see what happens. So it's going to log the state. We're still getting some errors. I'm not sure why. So it's saying that no credentials. So I think this error is regarding the regarding this file, AWS exports.js file. It was also expecting some configuration of pinpoint, which is another service of AWS. But it's a warning. So we still okay. So it is saying signed in. So it is actually showing us the state of the user. And then if you want the information about the user, like the email address, the name of the user, you can also do that. I'm not sure. I'm not exactly sure how, but let me try. Data maybe. Let's see if it works. Okay, so it is giving the user data as well. So in Gatsby, you had like different functions for getting this information, but in this case, you can just pass it over here, and it is giving me the information about the user, and it is also showing me the state of the user. And yeah, I think that's it for today. We have seen how to integrate APIs, and then we also saw how to integrate our user pool with our React Native. So yeah, I think
Varis, I was
that's
thinking about finishing the bootcamp today because we have more or less covered all the important things.
Okay.
What we are going to do is I'll go over what we have done so far. First of all, Zeeshan Hanif did a tremendous job, and Huma joined us later, and she also did a tremendous job. You can see the performance of Varis. Both Huma and Varis were basically students in the bootcamp, and later on they became teachers. Then Adil did a marvelous job. Daniyal also did a marvelous job. Hira did a marvelous job. A lot of people contributed. More than 84, about 84 English classes and 84 Urdu classes. And more than 100 hours of tutorials in the latest state-of-the-art cloud development in Urdu and in English. Therefore, more than 200 hours of material is now available. We will continue accepting the projects next year till 2022 December. The recording sessions have completed, but the submissions will continue for the next 2 years because the things we taught are not going to get obsolete in the next 2 years. And therefore, what I'll request to students is go over the material, complete 12 projects, and then contact me. My phone number and WhatsApp number is included in the bootcamp. Now, what is next? We will, all of us, take a break for the next month or two because it has been very hectic. Most of us are tired. Zeeshan also fell sick during the boot camp, and a lot of people got sick. And in this corona age, all of us moved forward continuously. Now, what is next? About 45 days of break, we will start a new bootcamp 2021. And what will be in that bootcamp? You know, what we have learned so far is develop the APIs, develop the client side. But modern APIs and modern server-side components also fuse artificial intelligence, Internet of Things, IoT, and blockchain technologies. So therefore, what we are going to learn in Bootcamp 2021 is how to fuse the technologies of artificial intelligence, IoT, and blockchain in the APIs. We are still going to use the CDK. We are not going to focus that much on the client side. On the client side, we are going to have bots, not UI. UI is already recorded and it is available in Bootcamp 2020. In 2021 Bootcamp, the user interface will be bots, and that will be covered later. But first, we will know how to basically integrate artificial intelligence. Therefore, we start off by using Python. TypeScript language is going to be same. We will also going to, in 2021, and for IoT, we are also going to use Rust. Therefore, with 3 languages, TypeScript, Python, and Rust. Then we are going to cover AWS, machine learning systems, artificial intelligence as a service, how are they developed. It's a long story. The link of Bootcamp 2021 is already included in this page of 2020. And inshallah, we are going to continuously develop. We are right now also developing a platform. Varis and Huma are the basically lead developers, and Zeeshan is the basically CTO, a platform for API development. which will be introduced later when we get out of stealth. And we will also start releasing videos about that, how to basically make you a billionaire. How can you become an owner of a unicorn, API-based unicorn, if God willing. What we can do in life is only work hard, and that's the only thing we can do. I like Zeeshan, Huma, and Varish to say a little bit. Huma, why don't you go start and just summarize and how you felt and what you learned and so on, and then Varish and then Zeeshan will finish off the bootcamp.
Okay. To summarize it, I learned a lot in this bootcamp, not just by theory, but practical projects. And surely these are the emerging technologies without which we developers won't be able to catch up with the technology. And looking forward to learn more and grow more. Thanks.
Thank you so much. Varish?
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, I think Huma is right that because my background was not from programming, although I'm an engineer, but I joined this bootcamp midway, and it has been a tremendous journey because I've learned a lot. And to be very honest, my entire education seems like a joke. The way that we are learning this course, at the speed at which we are actually updating our course, and the state of the technologies that we are learning in this course, I think my degree seems like a joke to me because the things that I learned in my bachelor's were like literally outdated. So yeah, I think it's an amazing experience, and I got a lot to learn. And I think this is one of the best opportunities you guys can get to learn from home without any cost and start earning. So yeah, so I would actually like to thank Sir Zia and Sir Zeeshan for actually motivating me so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Varish. Zeeshan, please unmute yourself and finish off this bootcamp. You started it and you are going to finish it.
Thank you, everyone, for watching these long videos, and people like Waris and Huma and many others learn from this bootcamp. So all the effort, the pioneer of these efforts, Sir Zia Khan, who have made us connected together. And in the time when there were literally kind of a no hope, we are talking about the start of the corona, maybe March or April. It's a time of March or April when Sir Zia has initiated this process because it was not possible to go out or to do classes in the bulk of by gathering bulk of student. So we started this bootcamp by teaching online, and it was very helpful to thousands of students, and it will be helpful in the near future because the things we have discussed, even I was not quite well aware about the AWS technologies. So I myself, after the 15 years of my career, I myself also learned too many things in this bootcamp. So I learned, I myself learned many things, and uh, did as bit of contribution to all of yours learning. So it was a great experience and great it's pleasure, and thank you, Sir Zia, to pioneering this.
Thank you, everyone. And we will meet again in about 45 days in Bootcamp 2020. We will also introduce new members in the team. Right now, I'm not even going to ask anybody who are going to continue teaching because everybody is right now exhausted. After 84 classes, and everybody is totally exhausted. In 45 days, we'll start thinking about, we will bring in a AI specialist, IoT specialist, but the CDK specialist will and the cloud specialist will always remain there because going forward, cloud is the only way forward. We will have to learn AI and IoT and blockchain integrating with the cloud, but and fusing with the cloud. But the cloud is the main, what do you call, the culprit going forward. Thank you, everyone. Bye bye. See you guys
Okay.
soon.
Bye, everyone. Bye, everyone.